What up, everyone? I'm so excited about this episode. Today, we're talking curiosity, emotional honesty, and the art of asking yourself better questions, all as a way to help you with the most important relationship of all. Welcome to 2026, the one with yourself. All right. I'm going to touch on spirals, vulnerability, finding your middle, whatever that means, and why feeling lost might actually be a sign that you are doing it right. Also, if you stick around to the end, we get into the full moon in Cancer, and I'm going to pull a card to help you, feel the support and guidance of the universe along the way. All right, let's do this. Hey, everybody, how's it going? It's Pilar, and this is Pilar's Corner. And today I wanted to talk, it's the new year. We all reflecting, we all in our feelings. Maybe we're not in our feelings. Maybe we're disassociating a little bit, which honestly, power to you. But I wanted to talk about, something that's always on my mind. I feel like even with my clients, you know, whether they're actual leaders, managers, directors, or they're just, working to be leaders in their own life, which I think we're all kind of trying to do anyways, hopefully. We're all trying to find our own place. We're all trying to align with our vision on what it is that we want, get closer to some form of peace within ourselves and what success means to us. And the one thing that I always tell people is that your greatest asset and the greatest skill that you can develop as a leader, whether it's for others or just yourself, is curiosity. It's learning how to ask good questions, right? And I think that, I have a lot of I have a lot of failures. I have a lot of weaknesses. I got a lot of soft spots. But one thing that I accredit myself to always having is a genuine, unbridled curiosity for what have I gone through? What am I going through? And how can I inform my next steps? Now, it doesn't always come out that way in my mind, but that is the energy of what's happening constantly within my body is where am I at as compared to where I was, which really, when it's in practice, I'm just asking myself questions about myself. Why am I doing this thing? Does this thing work for me? Is this thing making me happy? Am I feeling anxious right now? Why am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling disturbed right now? Why am I feeling disturbed? Am I happy? Am I elated? Am I feeling super enthusiastic and excited? Oh my God. Why? Right? I'm always trying to figure out the why behind myself. And for better or worse, right? Because it's created a tremendous amount of anxiety. I believe one of the reasons why I am that way is because, I have a tremendous capacity for hypervigilance, right? I'm just constantly like, "Uh, uh, uh, so I'm always trying to also ask myself questions about myself just naturally, right? Like, how can you do better? And then how can I do better? So it there's there's some downsides there. But the spirit of it, which is what I always am trying to help lift up others in, is how do we just genuinely become more curious about ourselves and allow that to inform our future selves and our present selves as well, right? Because the more that we're able to cognitively create connecting of the dots between how we feel and what that is, right? Being able to identify emotions, being able to identify cause and effects, being able to identify maybe why we're making certain decisions, we are, we can have a tremendous amount of, oh, right, okay. Because if not, you feel like you're going crazy. You can feel like you're going crazy. when you feel a feeling and you're just like, oh my God, and whatever, you're living that feeling, but then you get to that feeling again, and then you're maybe trying to recreate that feeling, or that is a negative feeling, and you keep coming back to that feeling, and now you're feeling dysregulated, and you're feeling all discombobulated, and it can feel a sense of overwhelm. It can create overwhelm. It can create, a hypersensitivity that can then create dysregulation that can really just make us spiral, right? So if this resonates, then I really hope you hear the words that it is I'm saying, because, you know, in one regard, being genuinely curious is one so important. Um, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because it allows us to be more intimate with ourselves. That process of becoming more intimately aware of who we are creates a vulnerability and a transparency that we only hope to have with others, right? When we want to connect with people, it's a transparency and a connection that we hope to have when we find, our true loves, our greatest friendships, right? We want to have that sort of that unapologetic sharing that can then be embraced, seen, appreciated, accepted, right? And but we have to do that with ourselves first, right? We have to do that with ourselves, or at least practice with ourselves. It's a lifelong journey, and loving ourselves is a lifelong journey. Accepting ourselves is a lifelong journey, because we don't know everything about ourselves, even when we're on our deathbed, right? We're just learning about ourselves with the context of the situation that we're in, and how, it can connect to other parts of experiences and data points that we may have tucked away. But every new moment is a new experience that then feeds into that data bank, right? So we can only be prepared for the moment at hand. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We can only best prepare ourselves, right? We can only best prepare ourselves. And I've heard this before, where it's like, you can't find love unless you love yourself first. I have very mixed emotions about that, because I think that everyone kind of has different journeys, and absolutely, I think that you can find love. I think you absolutely can find love, even if you struggle to love yourself 100%. Because that, again, we're all trying to get better at the self-love part, because again, we don't know everything about ourselves until we, hit a situation where, like, oh my God, well, that's a new cringe moment I could just add to the bank. Right? It's like, um, that's another thing to be totally embarrassed about. You can unequivocally accept yourself and all your quirkiness. I mean, I've come a very long and far way. I used to think I always accepted myself and loved myself and absolutely da da da. Da. But you know, I I feel that way now, and I feel like I love myself more and more every day. But there's still things that I'll do where I'm like, "Ooh, yikes. Oh no." I'm sitting um in a catatonic state, and what I should be doing is sending out sending out you know happy new year's, happy holidays. I should be sending out these messages. Instead, I'm sitting here and I'm not doing. Don't tell anyone. And then I have to go through the process of, like, trying to explain to myself, like, okay, you've got 3 kids, everyone's on vacation, it's a busy time, but you feel bad. You feel bad, you wish you could do better. You feel bad, you wish you could do better. Is just the normal state of being human, right? You have great moments, you have shitty moments, but it's all in how you frame it to yourself so that you can move forward through that journey of self-knowing and just like adding to the blessed mess of life, right? And how do we add to that blessed mess of life is, it's different for everybody. For me, it really helps to categorize. It really helps to categorize. So if I can be like, this is a work moment, this is a family moment, this is a personal moment, I'm learning something now about myself. I'm learning about myself in the context of work. I'm learning about myself in the context of friendships. I'm learning about myself in the context of family, because then I'm able to not pile on to myself and be like, well, bitch. Obviously, you can't do the laundry on a schedule because you're terrible at schedules, right? Because you're just generally bad at like holding a schedule. That will create a spiral effect, and it really sucks. Which I'm really good at. I'm really good at. But I'm also, going back to my original point, I'm also just genuinely always curious and always in a state of trying to learn about why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling when I'm feeling it. And that genuine curiosity, instead of making assumptions, even though I go to the extremes of the emotions, at at some point I'm just chipping away. I'm just asking myself, where did that come from? Why did that happen? Right? And what can I do better? But also, am I asking too much of myself? There is no rhyme or reason that I can personally teach you. And I may be a coach, but I'm not your coach, right? And I may support and do spiritual guidance for people, but I'm not in a session with you. I can only tell you what is possible, what you are capable of. I know that you're capable of this. I know that you have within you an ability to you ask yourself questions. Okay. This is a big reason why people go to therapy, because maybe they don't know what questions to ask themselves. Okay. So I can give you some of them. But what I'm trying to tell you is that ultimately it's up to you to go on that journey with yourself. You are capable of having an intimate, transparent, and unapologetic relationship with yourself and who you are. And you can only do that by being vulnerable with yourself, being vulnerable, being truly, truly vulnerable. And it is an extremely uncomfortable place to be. It is extremely uncomfortable. If you're feeling lost, if you're feeling if you're just spinning out and you're like, I don't know my ass from my elbow, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what these emotions are, I just know that I'm uncomfortable, I just know that I don't know my place in the world, in my family, with my friends, I just don't know. My favorite, I read this somewhere, and it's kind of it's not an uncommon sort of sentiment, but feeling lost is the first step to finding yourself. Feeling lost is the first step to finding yourself, because that's when stuff is unraveling, right? Stuff is unraveling so that you can see what you're working with. So you can see what you're really working with. When you unravel, when you're spiraling, you're seeing what you're working with. What's the stuff? What's underneath? And it can be a very, very, very scary place. This is someone who you're talking to, somebody or listening to someone right now who suffered from major depression since like pre-adolescence, since I was 12 years old. Okay. Had suicidal ideations since I was 12 years old. Was a single mom for 10 years. And in that time period, My son, just having a son is what saved me. I cannot tell you how many times because I would constantly, it was like a puzzle of trying to figure out how do I remove myself from the equation in the least traumatic way possible. Um, and and it was only until like 3 years ago, okay, I'm almost 40, 3 years ago that finally after when I was pregnant with my third, did I really start getting um like psychiatric help. And all of these years, I've been working on myself diligently, spiritually, physically, professionally. So many things. I was constantly in balance, in high performing, excelling, and just incredibly high masking, really. But also just asking, like, how can I genuinely do better, feel better, honor myself, accept my flaws, going through that whole entire process. I never let up. I've always just genuinely been curious, and I do genuinely feel that I am where I am because I did that for so long. Because I did that for so long. I really genuinely believe that everyone's journey is exactly as it's supposed to be. That's why zero judgment. Someone realizes something today or 20 years from today. It's like that's the journey that it was that's what it is. That's what it is. No judgment, right? Not good or bad, but it's yours. It's yours. And it's really more just about how do we support each other in the best most meaningful way possible. And sometimes, it's a lot of support, sometimes it's a little bit of support. But with ourselves, right? We're always with ourselves. And that journey of full spectral acceptance, it starts with genuine curiosity and asking yourself questions. Why am I feeling this way? Is this what I want? Do I really want to be in this relationship? Do I really love this job? Does this thing really bring me joy? Am I feeling anxious right now? Who was I just with? What have I been doing? What have I been eating? Have I been drinking? Right? Am I drinking more than usual? Right? Am I drinking less than usual and I'm actually not as anxious anymore? Right? What is happening? You are the only person. You can get support. You can find resources. You can do all of these things. But the only person who's going to be able to initiate that is you, is you. Connecting this to kind of, if you're interested, what's happening in the cosmos astrologically, we've got the full moon in Cancer. Okay, we've got the full moon in Cancer happening tomorrow, Saturday, January 3rd. We just started. Right? We just started the new year. And if you haven't already watched, I put out a January first impressions, just looking at all of the stuff that's happening for January. Oh my God, y'all. January is like whatever you have cooking, like it's going to be very interesting. And if you're prepared and you're asking yourself those questions, you're having difficult conversations and you're prepared to have difficult conversations and you're prepared to like see yourself, witness yourself and be in that place of like, all right, we're going to do this, right? I'm going to show up and that's all you have to do is just show up. You're going to be incredibly rewarded. You're going to be incredibly rewarded. But I love that it starts off, bam, starts off with a full moon in Cancer. And so Cancer is this all feeling, we think of Cancer, just like emotional. Everybody likes to think of Cancer as like, they're emotional, which isn't untrue. But um, you can also find Cancers who are not emotional people. I mean, maybe they have emotional sides to them, But really, when we look at an astrological sign, what we're trying to understand is what their journey is, right? Through that sign. Like, what are they going to be learning, right? What are, maybe they have the tools, but they're on a path to honing in on those tools. And when it comes to Cancer, the end goal is to realize and accept all of your emotions. All of your emotions. Cancer is just teaching us that we are angry people. We are enthusiastic people. We are joyful. We are vengeful. We can be hateful. We can be disgusting. We can be supportive. We can be all sacrificing. We can be divine, right? In how we can support others. We can also be very, very disgusting and spiteful and hateful in how we might feel about others. All of that is us. All of that is us. We are capable of the full spectrum of emotions. And the Cancer sign, that Cancer energy wants us to know that even when you feel feelings that you don't like or that you're not familiar with, you need to understand that that is still you. That is still you. And that's perfect. You're already perfect. That's part of your toolkit. It's like having, ever seen those Allen wrenches that are like microscopic? And you're like, the fuck do I need this for? Right? Although I'm sure somebody's going to be listening to this and be like, that's for XYZ thing. And I'd be like, I totally believe you. But it's like when you have that tool in your toolbox and you're like, what the fuck is this for? It's just taking up space, right? Well, the reality is that it's a tool. It exists and it's what you have, period. And you might be like, oh, I'm never going to use that. I'm never going to need that. I should just get rid of it. It's the same thing that we do on like what you hear in these, overly pious spiritual gurus who are like, express yourself of all negativity and reject it from your being and be only light and let only light into your body and da 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 and your environment and detox and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I love the sentiment. Love it. Great. Guess what? We're human. Yes, we are souls living a human experience, but guess what that means? We're living a human experience. So you can't just like beam me up, Scotty, to the next UFO that's flying by. You've got to live your life. You've got to live your life. The spiritual journey will only take you so far. It's about a balance, right? And it's about ultimately accepting the self, accepting the self. There's I believe it's a Buddhist proverb, I don't know, Buddhist saying, where it says the truth is always somewhere in the middle. The truth is always somewhere in the middle. That's why we have the extremes. And your extremes are going to be different than somebody else's extremes and somebody else's, right? Our truth, our own individual truths will be somewhere in the middle for us. Okay? For us. It's also a nice way to also kind of remind you that like everyone has their own sort of spectrum of what is extreme on both sides, right? And where they land is where their middle is. We have to accept that, right? Whether you agree or don't agree, it doesn't matter. That's just how it is. And so the truth is always somewhere in the middle. It's the same with just being human and acceptance. It's like we must live in balance of who we are. We are not just a spiritual being, not just souls. We're not just logic, right? We're not just a physical organism that eats, poops, sleeps, cycle, repeat, right? We are somewhere in the middle. We are both things, right? And so how do we integrate that experience with ourselves so that we are ultimately accepting of our own personal spectrum? And the emotions are just, it's so human. The emotions are so reflective of the human experience, whether you're expressive with your emotions or you're not expressive. Even people who are not expressive with their emotions, they are feeling like they're having their own experiences. Okay. Sometimes you might see people um, on the spectrum as very sort of stereotypical. Like think of people on the spectrum as like, oh, non-feeling, hyperlogical, right? That's just what you see. That's just what you see. But you don't see the internal being. You don't see that they have a lot of emotions based on what it is that they experience and when they're experiencing a lot of emotions, right? You just can't make assumptions. But the reality is simply and always will be the baseline that the human experience is an emotional experience, right? And we may think of emotional as like, bleh! No, it's just emotions, period, right? Happy, content, at peace, right? Tired, right? Exhausted, um, anxious, angry, vengeful, right? Oh, these are all emotions that are part of the human that we have a capacity for. We have a capacity for these things. Some people will be, have um, what is it called? Have trouble with emotional regulation. Something I have. I've always had it. And other people have it too, right? You may feel like you just feel way too much, just too sensitive. Okay, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? We're in a place where that is us. That we just simply have to accept that as us. We can go through the process of asking ourselves, right, why am I feeling this way? Right? But you have to come to these questions from a perspective of acceptance, not of what is wrong with me. Very important. Not what is wrong with me, but just simply, I am very anxious right now. And I've been spiraling out and I've been having, why is this? Most of the time, we know the answers. We know the answers. But it's through that vulnerability and through that acceptance of the curiosity journey, okay, that will help us be more accepting of the obvious answer and then the answers behind it. Because I know that every time I hang out with that person, it takes so much out of me. It takes so much out of me. Okay, so what's the next question? Why do I keep hanging out with that person? Because, well, I can't even think of that question because I have to hang out with this person. I have no choice. What is in your control? What is in your control? And that's where things can get interesting. When we get to like the third why, right? That's when things get really interesting. And you don't always have to have the answer, not immediately. Not immediately. Maybe never. Honestly, maybe never. Maybe you'll never have the answer. Maybe it's just going to be a continuous evolving cycle of understanding where that question just takes you. It's okay not to have the answer. It's okay not to have the answer. That's also acceptance. We live in a society and a time right now where because of the information age, it's like, well, don't you know? Well, what do you know? And and like, oh, well, they didn't know. And then people get shunned for what it is they don't know and labeled as ignorant or labeled as arrogant or whatever. Arrogance, like, I definitely know, right? I definitely know. But do you? And It's okay to just be like, I don't know. Even for very, like, oh, you should have an opinion on this. You should have an opinion on this. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you feel pressured to have an opinion, but it's also okay to be like, I don't know. I don't know. I have to do more research. I honestly just haven't done enough research. I'm somebody who, I'll tell you, people will try to egg me into this conversation and try to get me to have an opinion. But how do you feel about it? And I'll be like, I, I don't know. How I feel about it is that I don't know. How I know that I feel about it is that I know that I don't know. That's where I'm at. And I refuse to have an opinion on something that I don't know, because I have had a lot of experiences where, yeah, you commit to an idea and then you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe I've been saying that. And I had no fucking clue. I had no fucking clue. Treat yourself the same way. It's okay to feel like you have an idea and then not feel like you have an idea. It doesn't mean that you're going backwards. It means, again, going back to that feeling lost, right? We feel lost because we think we have the answer, and then we don't. And it's like, oh my God, I'm fucking lost. But where does that take us? That is the first step to finding ourselves, the unraveling. The unraveling. You realize, ooh, things got tangled at some point. What am I gonna do? Am I just gonna keep pulling until it gets tighter and tighter, tighter, and just try to ignore it and move on? Right? Until and I'm just twisting myself up in circles, just trying to tighten myself, double down to this thing that I don't even know. I'm going to commit, which truly is arrogance, right? But listen, it's okay. It's okay to backtrack. I think as a society, we're realizing, cancel culture, okay, yes, it still exists. But the same way that we feel about others, it's showing how we ultimately are reflecting back upon ourselves. Okay? Because you can point out the flaws in other people. It's not going to get rid of your flaws. It's not going to get rid of your flaws. So what are you going to do about it? Are you ready? Are you prepared? We'll find our way. But this full moon in Cancer, you may find yourself having emotions that either make you uncomfortable or like are the sort of the extra nitro in the tank that you need to really see what you're working with, to see how you really feel about something, right? Sometimes we feel like, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't care. I don't really feel one way or the other. But then someone puts a little cayenne pepper in your chicken and you're like, oh my God, right? You feel that adrenaline. Where does that take you? Does that take you to sadness? It pushes you. It pushes you. And if you're in the middle, okay, say you're somewhere in the middle, that's great. But at what point does it become too comfortable? Sometimes we got to push ourselves to be uncomfortable, unfortunately, when we're making difficult choices. What are we normally going to choose? Nothing. Right? Nothing. We're going to choose nothing if we had the choice. That's why pressure is also part of the human experience. Vast majority of the time, we're not going to make a change unless we have to. There has to be some sort of propelling component. It can be intrinsic or extrinsic, whatever, but we have to be pushed in some way. And if you don't feel that push, right, then you don't know it exists. So you get pushed and you feel a feeling. You feel a tightening. It's either compelled through fear, through enthusiasm, whatever. But you will be pushed. You will be pushed. So being aware of sort of that experience that can happen and come up because of this Cancer full moon. Just keep that in mind. And you know what? Little shits and giggles, we'll do some card pulls. So, what is the general message? Okay, that you need to know as it serves your highest and greatest good and highest and best way. Bitch. Okay. What card I get? I got the star card. I got the star card. Look at how cute she is. Look at how cute she is. What's the star card? The star card is unapologetic authenticity that raises you to a place of almost like peaceful enthusiasm. It's that sparkle. That's the stuff. It's what your X factor is. It's the thing that makes you shine, right? There's this sentiment in some spiritual communities, like, kill the ego, kill the ego, kill the ego. Part of being human is having an ego, okay? Having a healthy ego is the key. Having a healthy ego. Knowing that you are not more special than anyone else, but we are all different. And we are all special in our own way. We are all dots in, what's his name? That artist. There's an artist who would only paint with dots, right? But each of those dots is important for the whole picture to work. And realizing that none of us are more special than the other, but we are all different and unique in our own ways. That's the star card. That's the realizing that we're all the star, right? We're all our own star. And that is part of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance. You have to be in a place of, I am. I am who I am, who I am, who I am. That's a mantra that I used to recite to myself all the time when I was remembering a cringy moment, when I was in a bad place, when I was in a great place. I would just ground myself in this mantra. I am who I am, who I am, who I am. I am who I am, who I am, who I am. And that's that. That's it. And this is that star card. Whatever it is that you feel during this time period, during this January, at any point in your life, in the past, right? Any point you have felt in the past. You may not be who you were, right? But you are because of who you were. You are who you are now because of who you were. Okay? So remember that. Remember that. And whatever you felt in the past has helped inform who you are now. All of that is you. All of that is you. And you are the only person who's going to know that as intimately well as you. So you are the best equipped to have the most intimate relationship with yourself. All right. And when we do that, it helps set us up to be more comfortable with the difficult conversations that we need to have with ourselves when we're working our way out of tough spots, when we're working our way out of unknown places. Okay? So there you go. I love it. That's amazing. Oh, ow. Right, you guys? So that's it. That's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed that. If so, please we're starting this channel and, I'm just having so much fun finally talking about everything that I want to talk about. And if you're appreciating it, I mean, I can't believe how much the channel has grown in such a short period of time. So I'm really, really, I'm just feeling super blessed about that. But also, want to keep this going. So if you like it, please like it. Please share it with whoever you think this would resonate with. And yeah, all right, you guys. There you go. I love you. You're amazing. You are awesome. You are already perfect. And you got this. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.